Welcome, I'm here with my awesome friends and we're taking a look at the power of three. These are my friends from the immersion meeting and we are going to be looking at a core ingredient for your PMP exam. If I didn't mention it already, let me mention it that the PMI, they use this lingo. You are a project manager on a hybrid project. They give you a scenario and then what should you do next? In this series, I really want to make sure that you understand how they could build on process. I keep hammering on process because that's what is coming back to me as a very hot topic in 2022. All right, so let's jump straight into the power of three. I call it A, B, or C. So when I launch a poll, my friends, I want you to choose either A or B or C. There is not going to be an option D. It's just going to be A, B, or C. All right, so let's go ahead and remove option D. We will not be using option D today. We're going to use A, B, or C. Here we go. This is our first question. The increment was produced by the team. What should happen next? Let's launch the poll and you've got an A, B, or C. What do you think? All right, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's end the poll. And I will share the results. Remember, it's anonymous, so even I don't know who voted what. So if you want to vote, get your vote in. It's anonymous. All right, let's end and let's share the results. So it's pretty much split between the middle. But think about it. In the world of Scrum, when you are done with an increment, that's towards the end of the sprint. So you're done with the increment. The next thing that should happen is you should have a review, sprint review. The customer should review that increment. It will not be a retrospective. The retrospective happens after the sprint review. Remember, the retrospective wraps up the entire sprint. And it wouldn't be a daily scrum because you at the end, you're done with the increment. The next thing that needs to happen is the sprint review. So the best answer to this is A. Any questions? All right, let's go to our next one. Next question. It reads, project charter was developed. What should you do next? Here's a poll. What would you do next? Thank you for the votes. Thank you very much. All right, let's end it and let's share the results. Brilliant. The correct answer is develop the plan. It wouldn't be monitor risk because you just developed the charter. You wouldn't jump all the way into monitoring and controlling, right? You would have to plan the project because initiating is developing the charter and identifying stakeholders. You got it. Well done. Let's go to our next one. The stakeholder register was created. What should you do next? Remember, you can move the poll out of the way if it's distracted. And we're going to give this roughly 20 seconds, I beg your pardon. 3, 2, and 1. Let's end the poll. These are fast, fast, fast. Let's share the results. So a majority of us have gone with option A. Let's take a look. So stakeholder register is in initiating. You're in initiating. You wouldn't begin to create reports immediately because that's in the monitor and control project work process. See that? Instead, you would develop the plan. That's what makes logical sense. You wouldn't monitor risks either. So the answer is develop the plan. Okay, I hope you're learning and finding some gaps here. Let's go to another one. The requirements have been collected. What should happen next? All right, 3, 2, and 1. Now let's end the poll and let's share the results. So think about it. This question is saying you've collected the requirements. What should you do after collecting the requirements? What is linked to the requirements? The requirements happen in scope management, right? So you could guess, maybe it's something in scope, or maybe it's something closely related to scope. But if you take a look, you've just collected the requirements, you wouldn't create a risk breakdown structure immediately. You would need to flesh out the requirements into more understanding of the scope to deliver those requirements. I often say requirements beget scope. Based on the requirements, then you realize what the scope is. So in this instance, my friends, it's not C. And A says, did you note it did not say work breakdown structure? The organizational breakdown structure is an organizational hierarchy of who reports to whom. So it wouldn't be this that you do. It wouldn't be to create an organizational breakdown structure, because an organizational breakdown structure is not anything related to the requirements. That's to do with the resources. So the answer that I was looking for is to do with the scope, how you flesh out the scope. So the answer is the scope baseline, not the organizational breakdown structure. In fact, did you know that the OBS, a lot of times that already exists coming into a project? The OBS is already developed by the organization. That's why it's called organizational breakdown structure. Okay. All right, let's move to the next one. So I know it said breakdown structure. That was a trick. It's trying to make you think it's WBS. No, that's a different breakdown structure. All right, let's move on to our next one. The next one says the risk register was developed. What should come next? This will be our final one in this series for now. What do you think the answer is? All right, 3, 2, and 1. Let's end the poll and let's share the results. So think about it. What do you do in risk? We talked about this yesterday. You plan how to manage the risk. That's not part of it, but we have identify risks, which gives you the risk register. What do you do after identifying the risk? You analyze them. You don't analyze them qualitatively. After quantitatively, you do it before. Quantitative is after. So it's not this. Planning risk responses happens after you do the quantitative. So it's not this. The answer is qualitative. Qualitative comes before quantitative, and quantitative comes before planning risk responses. All right. So I hope this is making sense. To close this out, my friends, I want to show you one more very important topic. And if you watch my recent video on YouTube, you'll see how I broke down the logic in processes on the exam. Now, I know there are many voices about what you need to do for process. Don't listen. Listen to me. Hey, listen to me. None of them are your friends like I am. So listen to me. Seriously, listen to me. For your exam, I would love for you to master this. I didn't say memorize. I said master. I want you to master this flow that I'm about to show you. Here's the flow. This is like the 80-20 rule of the PMBOK guide. 20% of the PMBOK guide will give you an 80% payoff. What am I talking about? This is called the PMBOK mainline. And I'm going to show you 11 processes out of the 49 that will give you a massive payoff. It starts like this: the development of the project charter. The charter goes to identify stakeholders, and we get a stakeholder register. This is like the holy grail of PMBOK. You gotta know this stuff first. You gotta know. Absolutely, Kareem, we will. We'll get done with this and allow anyone who wants to jump off, and then we can take a look at some more. But this is like the 80-20 rule of PMBOK. Now, when you understand that, you also understand that the project charter goes into the development of the project management plan, and the project management plan goes almost everywhere, except two processes. So let me give you a very shortcut. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, I got to cram all the places that the project management plan is an input to. No, you don't. It goes everywhere except itself and except develop project charter. Project management plan goes to all the other 47 processes. So that's a shortcut. So the project management plan goes to direct and manage project work. And from direct to manage project work, you see these jokers, Charlie in the factory working, well, they're trying to produce a deliverable. That deliverable needs to go to control quality. It needs to be checked by you, the performing organization. Do you see this chain of events meandering through the processes of the PMBOK guide, cutting across knowledge areas? I need you to know this because I know it will help you. I know it will help you. There's no need for you to cram the 49 to understand the flow. Instead, know this main line. It's going to help you. Now, the project management plan also goes to control quality. Hello, I just told you it went everywhere except two. Now, from control quality, when your team is inspecting the deliverable, if that deliverable is fit for use, conforming to requirements and satisfying the customer, you're going to get a verified deliverable. In other words, verified means, boom, stamp of approval. I love it. That's what it means. And now we can send the verified deliverable on to the next step. And that's to the customer. So when you do your QC, you want to make sure this is presentable. And then it goes to the customer in validate scope. Validate scope is where the customer is inspecting for themselves. Did you see that little difference? Control quality is you inspecting, validate scope is the customer inspecting. Now, if the customer, this joker, Mr. Bean, decides, yeah, this is good, then we get another tag on the word deliverable, and that's accepted. So if the customer accepts the deliverable, it then goes to close project or phase. Boom, you just saw a path through the entire PMBOK guide. After all, what is your major objective in project management? It's to deliver a deliverable that's accepted, and ultimately that deliverable is going to give benefits. It's going to give value. It's going to deliver an outcome that the customer is looking for. See that? So close project or phase could produce a final report as well as a transition to the customer. You see that? So it started off with a charter, then a plan, then we executed the plan to get deliverables, then we checked the deliverable to get a verified deliverable, then the customer checked the verified deliverable to get an accepted deliverable, and then we sent that on, theoretically speaking, to the final step, which is to close out the project or the phase. But wait, there's more. There's associated things that happen, like the project management plan going through the entire main line and being an input to close project or phase. Being an input, like I said, it goes everywhere. But there's one I want to call out. All of these non-integration processes in monitoring and controlling, they all give you change requests. Now, I'm not saying that's the only place change requests come from, but it's very common that if you are in scope, control schedule, control cost, control quality, right? Control resources, monitor communications, monitor risk, control procurement, monitor stakeholder engagement, you always see change requests as a possible output. That's what I'm calling out. And guess what? All those change requests, they all go to perform integrated change control. That's where you are going to assess, should we do or should we not? Now, the project management plan, like I said, goes everywhere. So it goes to this other process, monitor and control project work. And guess what? Monitor and control project work gives you work performance reports. Now, what is the relevance of work performance reports? They are an input to you looking at change requests and saying, based on our current report, the state of this project, it doesn't make sense to take on more change requests. We're behind. We cannot accommodate this. Or maybe it's, wow, we're so ahead of schedule. Well, let's go ahead and accommodate this change request. So work performance reports has relevance when you're reviewing change requests. See that? And this is how it all interweaves. And then from all of those non-integration monitoring and controlling processes, we get work performance information. What is work performance information? It just means that we've analyzed our data and now we have conclusive decisions as a result of that data. And now we've got work performance information we need to put into a report. After all, what is a report? A report is made up of work performance information. You're just crystallizing it, whittling it down, and making it appropriate to each audience. Different stakeholder audiences, different reports. Senior management, give me a high-level report. I don't want to see your tasks. Just give me a high-level report. That's how it works. Now, like I said, the project management plan goes to every process except two. It does not go to develop project charter as an input, and it does not go back into itself, but it goes everywhere else. And that's all I'm calling out in this section over here. Now, moving forward, we're about to finish. We're about to finish. This next green line contains the work performance data. You see the work performance data going in. You see that line, work performance data, it's going in to all of those non-integration monitoring and controlling processes, because this is where we analyze the data. And this is where we get the information generated. Did you see that? The WPD, work performance data, goes in, the work performance information comes out. This is just logic. If you get data, you got to analyze the data. If someone gave you a 16-digit number, it could be anything, but you analyze it and then you realize, oh, it's a credit card. That's information. You see? So data is just raw observations until you analyze it. Then you get information and you could put that into a report. Let's finish this off by showing you a few more things. Like I said, project management plan goes everywhere. It also goes into manage project knowledge and deliverable, your deliverable. It's an input to manage project knowledge because you could glean a lot of knowledge from your deliverable. From everything surrounding your deliverable, you could glean knowledge, lessons learned. That's why it's an input to manage project knowledge. So my friends, if you haven't already noticed, can anyone tell me which knowledge area is predominant in this image? Which one is predominant? Do you see a recurring theme of knowledge area here?
Planning, I suppose.
All right. Which other one? Knowledge area, because you told me process group. So which one is the knowledge area that's predominant? Knowledge area. Does anyone see it? What's the knowledge area? The yellow ones?
Managing and controlling.
So that is a process group. Oh, Esther, how are you doing? Good to see you. So that is a process group. Monitoring and controlling is a process group. You see what I'm doing? I'm trying to make you think knowledge area. Thank you, Kareem. Uh-oh. Can someone give me an answer? Am I stuttering or is it me? Can you hear me okay? Everyone hear me okay? Good. All right. So which knowledge area? Come on now. So how many?
Could it be scope?
There's one thing from scope, but there are like 10 other things. Where are the 10 other things from? Where are they from? Where are the yellow things from? Come on now.
Integration.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Develop project charter. Let's count. Develop project charter, develop project management plan, director manage project work, manage project knowledge, monitor and control project work, perform integrate change control, close project phase. Boom. All of these are from integration. Do you see why I say integration is so important? If you don't understand integration, you can as well forget it, because it's going to be hard for you to see how the project is interwoven. And that's why I call it the main line. The main line is what binds all of the processes together. So you know what is cool about this main line? You could plant in any knowledge area directly into this one, develop project management plan, by inserting a baseline or a plan, a subsidiary plan straight in there. For example, the scope baseline is an input there. Schedule baseline is an input there. Procurement management plan is an input there. Resource management plan is an input there. So this just shows you how everything is interwoven. There is no process that is not interwoven into this in some way. And I can show you how everyone, so for planning, let's just say every planning process, this is an intersection point right here. So just use this as a placeholder. Any planning output can go there easily. And when I say any, I mean anyone. Anyone can go there, any planning component. Now, as far as the executing, any executing component, you can probably see where I'm going. Any executing component can be inserted into direct and manage project work. Why? Because this is integration. And there's always going to be an intersection point between any executing process and direct and manage project work. So anything in executing, if you wanted to see where it is introduced into the project flow, just look for direct and manage project work. It will make sense. The other one makes total sense because I've already shown it to you. Anything from monitoring and controlling, it just integrates right into monitor and control project work. And that's already there in this pink or purple box right here. As far as closing, well, there you go. There's only one process in closing, so that about does it, right? As far as which other one? Initiating. Well, there's initiating. There's only two things in initiating. So instead of you trying to like cram the 49 process flows or whatever, just master this one and be able to explain, all right, this is where planning fits in. This is where executing plugs in. That's where monitoring and controlling plugs in. And that's where initiating plugs in. All right. Any questions about this flow? It's called the PMBOK main line.
Can we get this diagram from somewhere?
So I created this. I made this about 7 years ago. I've just put the screenshot in the chat. But if you Google PMBOK mainline, you'll find so many variations that I've put out. Because I don't believe in drawing like all 49 processes on the screen. That's a bad use of time. It's better that you just understand how integration flows through the whole thing, and the rest is very easy.
I just like to do this, but would you mind? I mean, you explained that wonderfully, but would you mind explaining again the work performance? I mean, I understood everything you were saying, but I was just, my mind was just going all over the place. I was like, and I was trying to give myself like ideas of examples, but would you mind going back over that again?
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's to talk about WPD, WPI, and WPR, which students say helps them to better master the material. I want to direct you to one of the slides in your handout. And this slide just covers WPD, WPI, WPR. So let me bring that slide up. And I think it will be a better use of our time. So while I bring that up, let me explain that in the PMBOK guide, they have a recurring theme. of work performance data, work performance information, and work performance reports. It can become a little bit annoying because if you don't know what they are, you keep seeing them over and over and over again. So while I bring up this slide, let me ask you, do you recall what I said comes first in the sequence of these three things called information, reports, and data? Does anyone remember the three things? What comes first?
I think you said that the WPD was raw data, and then you get the work performance information, which is the data that you analyze.
Good.
And WPR is when you kind of create a report for a particular audience, whether it be high-level folks who need information captured in a certain way or presented to them in a certain way, or another group.
Brilliant. You absolutely nailed it. Thank you so much. Why don't we take a look at a different view and it will make more sense. All right, so I'm going to go in baby steps here just to make sure we have fully absorbed the information. Here we go. All right, so it starts off with the most important process. I call it the most important. I guess you could say, Phil, but there's one more important than that. Well, I call it the most important because it gives us deliverables. And without deliverables, your project will never end. You just try. You try closing out a project without delivering the deliverable, whether it's a product, service, or result, and you see if your stakeholders will buy that. So direct to manage project work, like I said, is super important. And it gives us this thing. Just think about it in bare bones fashion like this. When you're working in any job, you're also hopefully making observations about how the work is proceeding. And if you're not doing that, you should always be taking note of, okay, how are things proceeding? Are they going well? Are they not going well? You could even go as far as, how many defects do we have? Have we got any defects? If so, how many defects? What is our failure rate? How reliable is what we're doing? And things such as that. That's what we do as workers, as project managers. So work performance data is simply a raw observation of how the work is proceeding. It's that simple. How is our work going? It's a raw observation. Another example of work performance data could be, we have this resource on the project, and his name is Phil, and he's a key resource. Think about this. Phil is a key resource on our project. He's suddenly not available for 5 days. Why do we care? Well, you need to analyze this. So Phil's not being available is raw observation. How can we analyze it? We can think about the time impact, the quality impact, the cost impact. We could say Phil is a subject matter expert in the QA and QC team, and quality is going to be severely impacted, and schedule is going to be severely impacted, and the cost, right? It's going to cost us additional money. There's going to be penalties. Do you see how you can get one single data point and explore it and expand on it and get better understanding of the impact? This analysis that I'm doing here is the information. See, the data is, Phil is absent on the project, but when we flesh out the impact, now we're talking about information. See? Now, what are some examples of work performance data? Work performance data could be raw observations, measurements, work completed, KPIs, whatever those are. So think about it. A KPI, someone just says 0.9. Okay, 0.9, what's that? You got to know what the 0.9 is. Oh, it's a CPI. Oh, now we're talking. Or is it an SPI? No, it's a CPI. Okay, then why is it a 0.9? It's a 0.9 because we had this event and we went over budget. You see where I'm going with this? You got to analyze the data. Otherwise, it's just data. 0.9 is just data. So we get things like technical performance measures. You analyze your technical performance. Oh, we found 50 bugs. Okay. What's it going to take to fix them? Now we're talking information. You get what I mean? So number of defects, actual cost, actual durations, all that kind of stuff. We could say those are raw observations. You got to expand on them some more. And that's where work performance information comes in. So your work performance data, like I said, comes from direct to managed project work. Then it goes into all of these monitoring and controlling processes. But there's something peculiar about these monitoring and controlling processes. And that peculiarity is this. Stay with me now, because this is a punchline. All of these processes are not in integration. They are outside of integration. They are all of these. So work performance data goes into all of these red processes. And out of these red processes, I know it's beginning to make sense for someone. Out of these red processes, we're going to get work performance information. And guess where it's going? Right into monitor and control project work. But where did the work performance data come from? It came from direct to managed project work. And it went into these guys over here. So here's the deal. Here's the mystery of WPD, WPI, WPR resolved. Work performance data goes in. Work performance information comes out. And a work performance report is what you get out when you have consolidated all of that information. You can then put that, like I said, into a work performance report. So we can show an arrow coming out of here. And the work performance report goes to a bunch of places, but I'll just show you one place. The work performance report needs to be distributed to senior management. How? Through managed communications. So work performance report comes out of monitor and control project work, and it goes to 4 places. I'll show you the others, but the main place is managed communications because you're going to distribute it. And another place is also the very process that sits with monitor and control project work. I'm talking about perform integrated change control. That also uses the work performance report, as I explained earlier. So that's the mystery. It's a long story, but I didn't want to cut corners in explaining it. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. And I think the other one goes into managed team, right?
Exactly. You get it. That's exactly where I'm going. So let me share this screenshot with you just so that you got it. I know a lot of people say, well, it's not even tested on the exam. Well, it's good to understand the logic as you read the guide. It just gives you more dominance over the content, which is really what we're after. In the real world, we want to be able to blow this stuff up and to be really good with it. So here's the last part of the story. From here, we put our work performance information into a WPR, and that WPR goes to these 4 possible places. But really, it's understanding the logic of the flow. Data becomes information, becomes a report. I often say you got data, D for data, I for information, R for report. They all follow each other in the alphabet. D comes before I, comes before R. So if you're ever stuck on the sequence, just remember D comes before I, comes before R. Data, information, report. All right, I hope that explained it, my friends, and I didn't mean to keep you so long. So I know Kareem wants to do a few more. We'll go ahead and we'll officially say goodbye to anyone who needs to hop off and get any final questions before we go into some more questions.